the Rebbe traveled, Rabbi Dustin says he used to adjust his payas, make his payas a little bit tidy, so make my payas tidy. This is not a shir. This is just a schmooze we're having. Reb Mordechai Zeitlin and myself, my Torah Chaver's son, and I just wanted to share some thoughts about some inyanim in Likutay Moharan, Breslov, and I haven't prepared my thoughts. I haven't organized them in any seder. So if you have anything to say, speak up. Okay, Mati.
Sure.
So I have a number of chavrusas, even though I live up here in the woods. I have some chavrusas that I learn with at night, some by telephone, in addition to my chavrusas that I have on Facebook, on Zoom, sometimes on Facebook too. But with one of them, Benjamin Wildy, who lives down in Liberty now, was in Reb Yo Roth's yeshiva.
Oh, I was just there last week. Okay.
Right. So he and his wife and baby moved to Liberty, and we're in touch once a week by phone. We learn together.
Oh.
And his parents also have moved, I think, out of Williamsburg to Liberty, unless they have both deers. I'm not sure. I just spoke to him recently, but I haven't seen him in a long time, too long. Anyway, one of the things that we learned was we learned Tartan and Bass and Arab Island. And I've learned it with a couple of chaverim recently. And one of the things there's everything the Rebbe writes and states is full of fascinating inyanim, different nakudas, and overall how they all connect and what they all add up to. But what I was concerned with for the present, he speaks about hisbodedus and the need for hisbodedus in order to come to be masig, to grasp the mechuyev mitzias, which translates as the imperative existence, the reality that of itself must be present, must be real. The term of mechuyev mitzias I found in it's an unusual term. I found it in the Rambam, and I think, as I remember correctly, I found it in Hilchos Deyos, and maybe with the Perish on the Rambam there, in the Beis Yosef, and he uses that term. I think the term is also used in the Mor Nevuchim, which we don't learn in Breslov, but I think the term is there. And it seems to me that when he speaks at the beginning of this lesson about refuting the words of the Apikorsim, who say the world must have always existed, the eternity of matter, who deny creation, yesh ma'ayin, right? That he's negating the Greek philosophers who may have been referenced by the Rambam, who also did study critically, of course, the Plato and Aristotle. And I think there's an Aristotelian idea about the eternity of matter. So the Rebbe is really attacking that idea, right, indirectly, without mentioning it, as it has filtered down to us through people who are true Apikorsim, and even as the Rebbe criticizes our Gedolei Yisrael, who in certain periods were sometimes influenced by philosophy, which the Rebbe is fire against. So he says that the mistake is that the mechuyev mitzias, the only thing that's a mechuyev mitzias is Hashem. Hashem is the ground of being. Hashem is the given reality, the true reality, and everything in creation, including the Klal Yisrael, is only in the category of an efshari hamitzias, a contingent or a possible existent. and that only after Hashem brought the Klal Yisrael into being, decided to create a creation which the Klal Yisrael would be acting in the center of creation, to come to have a relationship with Hashem, that there should be mutual knowledge of Hashem and Klal Yisrael, Adam. Did the arena for that relationship, namely the universe as we perceive it, the manifest universe, become a mechuyev mitzias. In other words, relative to the need to create the Klal Yisrael, to create man. And as the Chazal state that the term Adam is only used for Yisrael in the Torah. Other terms, not to dehumanize non-Jews, but other terms are used for them. B'nai Adam, Enosh, Geber, different terms are used. But technically, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai points out that the term Adam means the Klal Yisrael, and that, just to digress for a second, that all humanity was meant to be in the category of Adam, until the various tragedies took place in human history. It caused there to be a break, a rift between the Klal Yisrael and the other nations. Be that as it may, only relative to the will to create Klal Yisrael did everything that exists in relationship to Klal Yisrael, surrounding Klal Yisrael, the arena for the avodah of Klal Yisrael, become a mechuyev mitzias. It has to exist relative to the Klal Yisrael's fulfilling our mission and purpose in life. But the real truth is that only the Eibishter is mechuyev mitzias. And he says to come to achieve this perception, this hasaga, mechuyev mitzias, we have to come to a state of bittul. We have to nullify all of our negative traits until we nullify our own very most subtle sense of being a separate self, the subtlest self-importance, in realizing that all of reality, everything, including our own very selves, are really a mask for a Likutay, for Elikus. And that's the idea of Ein Od Milvado Mamish, which Rav Moshe Kremer in his marvelous Sefer Maimon Mukim on this lesson, Nun Beis Hanir Balayla, discusses using that language, Ein Od Milvado. I think Rav Nosson also uses it. And probably the Bir Likutim, which has such profound influence on Rav Moshe, and which I've always found like very challenging to learn. But I'm starting to now reconnect to it. My label loves Bir Likutim, my grandson. And he prays in Bir Likutim to the heights, and he's always telling me over on the telephone beautiful ideas from Bir Likutim. And he was already Messiah at once, and so he gave me new hope, and I discuss it with him. When I discuss with him, then I start to smell the roses. Baruch Hashem.
Is he a paparazzi person? Huh?
Very much. He's very much a Papa Rose person.
I was saying you.
Oh, me for sure.
Right.
For sure. Absolutely. That was Reb Luzer, but Reb Luzer also loved the Bir Likutim. And I once heard B'Shem Reb Gedalia way back. Some things are a little bit not disrespectful of the Bir Likutim, but like the sort of idea that he was a yochid who had a very individual path. He would go out with a sack of rolls to the Greco forest, Motzei Shabbos or Sunday, and stay there until Erev Shabbos the next week. He lived like a very austere life. He had nothing to do with Gashmias. Sort of like a person who was not really ma'urav in mabrias to a sufficient extent, and I heard from Label that he discussed the Be'er Likutim with Rebbe Lozer and Rebbe Ephraim. Said, if I cared, Rebbe Gedalia, I just loved the Be'er Likutim. And whatever I heard must have been taken out of context. The context was tremendous enthusiasm and respect, greatest respect. So anyway, this idea of Einod Levado as expressed in Breslov is very much connected to many lessons, to everything really, but to this one in particular. And to come to that bittul is through Hispoididus. And that the person has to be Mavatul, all of his negative mitos and taivas, desires and traits, until he's able to nullify that critical sense of self, right? The Eza Dover, the Rebbe refers to it as Eza Dover, and Rebbe Nosson explains it to be the yesh, the sense of separateness, of being a separate self. And you can be vavatal that with his Hispoididus too. It doesn't tell us exactly how to do that. He just tells you it can be done, and obviously our Masorah in Breslov is that whatever the Rebbe tells you in Likutay Moharan is an autobiography. He did it. He's not telling you something theoretical. He's telling you something that is from his own life and state of mind. So let me use this.
You want this one? This is the largest.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm just reading a little bit from this. Yeah, I have a bigger print coming up. So a person nearby lively, he has to stay up at night and go out, ideally, and go out to this derech yichidi, go out to walk on the isolated path, Mavana Liba B'Tola, purge his heart until he comes to a state of bittul. Okay. And he has to prolong the Hispoididus ad shelo yishor mimeno klum, till there's nothing left of the self, the illusion of the self. Shia b'chinas ma be'emes, that he should be the personification, or the reach the perception of ma, of nothingness, like Moshe Rabbeinu says to the rebels, "V'nachnu ma," right? That we are not people that you're objecting to. That we're whatever we're saying and doing is only the elikus which is being channeled through us. Ad sheyovo lebechinas sheyizko lebechinas bittul be'emes, until the person truly achieves this nullification of the ego, or of the self, of the illusion of the self, as something separate and autonomous. When one attains this in truth, and the Eibishter, and then in his becoming incorporated into Getlichkeit, into Elikus, the Shoresh HaKol, the true reality, the Mechuv Metzias, and then everything in the world, everything in creation, together with his Nefesh, also ascends and is incorporated into the Mechuv Metzias, into the Shoresh HaKol, Ki HaKol Tolui Bo, V'azai Nasa Kol HaOlam Al Yoda B'chinas Mechuv Metzias, and then the entire world, through his transformation effort, also becomes privy to experience the Mechuv Metzias, Elikus, that's the true reality. So this idea of taking the world with you,
elevate the world with you, in other words.
That we have this idea of Yisrael Olam Machshavat Achila from the Medrash, the Klal Yisrael, the Nishmas Yisrael, arose in the divine mind first. Right, that's what's primary in creation. But what's primary in creation doesn't mean that the Klal Yisrael is the top of the hierarchy, and no one else and nothing else really has much value, which is a dangerous way to read these words. And I hate to think of possibility that some people do. First of all, this confers an awesome responsibility upon us. Second thing is that if we are center stage, if we're the key factor in creation, and our bechira, as it states in others forum, is critical, the greatest degree of bechira is by Klal Yisrael, then our responsibility is for everything in creation. And if we should use our bechira correctly, if we should make the right choice in life, and we should be what the Torah wants us to be, then we're elevating everything else that we're connected to, which is everything in the Bria, all levels of creation, all of humanity, even the lower levels of Chai and Sameach and Domain. That everything is connected. Everything is a garment in a certain sense for Elikus, and everything is really one. And the critical thing that is incumbent upon the Klal Yisrael is that bechira, accepting the Torah and the bechira. We just celebrated Shavuos not that long ago, and it says the whole world sitted in Chazal until the day of Nisan, when we accepted the Torah. That all of creation was only provisionally existing until that point. It only solidified when we did that, and we made that choice, that critical bechira. So it says Yom HaShishi in the Maaseh Bereshis, in the first chapter of Bereshis. Chazal understand that the proper noun Ha, the sixth day, as being beyond the sixth day, that Friday of the first week of creation, but Hashishi, that sixth day of Nisan. Sivan, excuse me. Did I say Nisan before? Boy.
Correct.
Vav Nisan is my birthday, actually.
Mazel tov.
Okay, Mazel tov. And so it is that with that Vav Sivan that we exercise our bechira in this critically important way, which according to our theology is the whole point of creation. But in doing so, we actually benefit and elevate all of creation, and we bring enlightenment to all of creation. Ki imcha mikor chayim ba'orcha nira'or. With you, we say to Hashem, is life, and in your light, we see light. So we share that with all of creation. That's what the Rebbe is talking about over here too. And that's what unites the first half of that lesson, where it talks about the Klal Yisrael doing Hashem's Ratzon, and the second half where he talks about the attainment of Bittul and the Hasag of the Mechuyev Mitzias through his Poidus. So we're actually raising up everything. I want to get around to, in a minute, to Sichos Haran, but before I do, I decided to take a look at what the Zohar says about Asavim. The Rebbe talks about Asavim in the connection with his Boidus. Meditating in the fields, or praying in the fields, if that's what it is. The verbal Hispoidus that the Rebbe speaks about so much, and with the goals that we have outlined in a general way in Torah and base. And he speaks about the Asavim, which I want to read a little bit about. But I looked up in the Zohar about the Asavim. What is it that's so wonderful about the Asavim, which the Rebbe praises so highly? Probably like everything in Likutay on many things.
But that it helps the tefillah, right? It helps.
The tefillah, the tefillah, right? I'm going to get there.
If you daven amongst the Asavim and Milanes, right?
Asavim especially. Right. So he says over here in the Zohar, There's Ein Lecha Esav Shalom Nibra B'Shem Yud, right? In Yud, of course, is Chochmah. In the Shem Havai, Yud is the Chochmah.
Right.
So the Esav, which you could think of as being like in the lowest levels of Tzameach, nevertheless, each blade of grass is nishtalsha from this lofty Chochmah, which is the root of creation, Kul B'Chochmah Sisa. And of course we have this idea, Ein Lecha Esav Kotten She'enu Sholet Olav Kochov or Mazel, which is also an idea from the Gemara, the Medrash, that a Malach commands it, strikes it, and commands it to grow every blade of grass, every blade of grass. So there's always saying slightly different nuance, right? That it's ruled over by a star or a planet. Here's another one with Rob Frisch's Hebrew translation from the Zohar. Ein lecha afilu esav cotton ba'oretz. There's not even the smallest blade of grass on earth. She'ein lo koyach elyon lamayla, right? Which isn't empowered by this lofty power, this lofty force from above. V'chol ma shenasa im kol echad hakol hu ayidei osa koyach shalom shalmayla. And everything that takes place is obeying that power from above. So it extends all the way down to all the blades of grass. And then there's some more over here. He talks about plants and healing, and that they contain all of these wondrous powers, but the reason that they aren't revealed openly is so that we should turn to Hashem in prayer and not just rely upon the intermediacy of herbs, although we're permitted to and it's right to. Neshamas, Asavim, Vilanen, Inan, Nishmasan, the Tzadikaya. That these herbs or grasses and trees are the souls or contain the souls of the tzaddikim, right? And then there's another one, Kol Asvei Ha'oretz Mamunim Aleihem Sorim Gedolim Bashamayim. Same idea, that over all the grasses of the earth, appointed over them are these heavenly forces called Sorim, which means rulers. Kol Echad B'Echad Hu Sod La'atzmo Dugmas Maila, and each one has its own secret, right, relative to what's above. And here's the last one, Kol HaShavim Yesh Lem Shemus, that they all have names. So this gives there's something very wondrous about the individuality and specificity and the great abundance numerically of all of these grasses. So I think all of these ideas are going to help us to get what the Rebbe is talking about a little bit. Okay, so in Sichos Haran, by the way, I just want to mention that I always wondered, like there were short Torahs in Likutay Moharan, or medium-sized lessons, which don't seem to be too different than the material in Sichos Haran. What was the criterion that Reb Nosson used to put some in Likutay Moharan and others in Sichos Haran? And I suspect, I never talked about it with Reb Nosson. I do that all the time with Reb Lozer, right? But he was like the embodiment of Reb Nosson for me in this life. I never heard from him. It'd be interesting to ask Reb Ephraim about it, but I can't remember. But it seems to me that these words of these ideas and teachings in Sichos Haran are more in Reb Noson's words or in Lashon Chaverim, and that the versions, the texts in Likutay Moharan, the similar type of lessons are more meduyuk. Right?
More direct from the Rebbe.
Right. And maybe most of them, I don't know, I'm still some wiggle room here, I'm not sure about it. But the Rebbe went over most of this material with Reb Noson. So that's another factor. I don't know if he did that with the Sichos Haran. But of course we accept them equally. And it's the same Reb Noson who was the Rebbe's cipher and who wrote down the lessons in Likutay Moharan, and who wrote down these compilations, the Sichos Haran and the Chaim Haran and so forth. But still, there is some difference. So he in just read part of this, that when the Rebbe was sick and the lung disease was afflicting him so terribly, right? Kima apachol yom l'tayil samach le'ir l'refua. That he would, when he was in Lemberg, he would very almost regularly go for a daily constitutional for health reasons. Ushar kavanas noros shoyelo basa, and all the other wondrous intentions that he had in doing this. So it wasn't simply one thing. Okay, so there were profound spiritual matters involved too. B'shaname Piva Kodesh, and I heard from the Rebbe's holy mouth, Oz B'derech Hatil, while he was in the midst of his walks. Commentaries for Kamasichos Purim Neflaim Noroim, many awesome teachings and stories. Okay. Yama Maima Hamaskul Da Kashe'echad Mispal Basoda, and also the lesson of Likutay Moharan, right, which in the second half of Likutay Moharan, Siman Yud Aleph, he states that when a person davens in the fields, Anemar al Pasuk Vayetzi Yitzchak L'Soach Hasada, that Yitzchak went forth to speak in the field. Okay, Nemar Gam Kain Oz, he said at the same time, Be'eshan Asanu Imo L'Tayil, when we accompanied him, we traveled with him, we went with him to stroll. V'manu Basada Echad V'yaradnu that he stopped in a certain field, right, and he got down from the carriage. Or maybe it means that Amadun Basada Echad V'Yaradnu, we got down from the carriage. Vahu the Rebbe Hoya Adayin Yoshev Alagola, he still remained seated in the carriage. V'Madu Sabivo, and we stood around him. V'Sokach Higia Shas HaMincha. And while we were standing there, the time for Mincha came. V'hani wrote some his pal sham, and we wanted to daven right there. Oz Amar HaTorah Hanal, and that's when he said this lesson about the Hisbodedus. Inyan Sham is Palalan Basada, this matter about the chashivas of davening in the field, as I call a asabim full of, then all the asabim gather together and become incorporated into the tefillah. Nechnasen l'toch tefillah. I and Sham see the whole lesson. And afterward he gave over this teaching. Shekamosha anachnu omdim savivo, just like we were standing around him. Who roya kol asavim, and he saw all of the grasses, all the herbs. Echol esav ve'esav dochak atzmo l'chol echad ve'echad, that the blades of grass are sort of like interfering with each other, right? That they're pushing each other. Each one, Sham, that are standing there, Kedei La'alos Liknos B'Sochat Tefillah, in their desire to enter into the tefillah, into the person who's davening's tefillah. Kafi Hamavur B'Torah Kanal, as explained in that lesson. So
he's talking about the Rebbe's tefillah, right? They were trying to get into the Rebbe's tefillah. It sounds like, is that what you're saying? Just like the students were standing around. So were the asabim all trying to be included in the tefillah of the tzaddik?
I think so. but I don't think it means exclusively tzaddik. Ve'enyan sham, keshmes palm basara, azai kol asab mefula nechnas it happens by everybody. Ein sham va'amar achakach, and afterwards shekmosha anachim modim b'si, just we're standing around him now. Who roya kol asabim, he sees that all of these grasses. Eich kol esav dochak atzma l'kol echad ve'echad me'ha'omdim sham kadei la'alos liknos b'tok tefillah so. Yes.
In other words, just like the students are standing around the carriage, so too all the grasses
want
to be included in this tefillah.
So this the inyan of the asavim. Did I read that to you over here from the Zohar that the asavim? I certainly read it. It's certainly from Reb Nosson. I told you I don't have this really organized properly, but I want to. I'll just say something for the record. He says about the asavim. I'm looking in the Likutay Hamasholish Otzrayira, which has beautiful, beautiful teachings about this Baidus, about everything. This is the crash course in Breslov for anybody who really wants to get a good picture of the basic ideas of Breslov, and to try to glimpse the hole through the trees, the forest through the trees, at least a little bit. So a marvelous compilation. And also Trina does just an amazing job of summarizing complicated Torahs and trying to. When he works with the third section with Reb Nosson's teachings to Likutay, he summarizes them. Like he gives you a tonsils, the key ideas that are related to the subject that we're talking about, right? Because they're so complex that you can get lost. So he sort of like skillfully leaves out as much as he can of things that are related to other topics, and in order to bring out the main point related to whatever topic he's classifying this under. I underlined so many of these pieces of it. It's hard for me to find the ones that I wanted to say right now. Here's Klaskus, oh boy. Here's Klaskus. Here's Baidus. We'll talk about the asavim anyway. Ooh. Right underneath me. Where's Reb Nosson's sefer?
There's the other Otzei you're looking for?
It's right underneath me.
Yeah, it's under the other one.
This one is the one I want, okay. the Novus Sufim. Right, the Maftech that Reb Nosson Tzvi Koenig made. He says over here in Likutay Halachos and in Hilchos Matzranos, asavim tzmachim tzavuos eperos heim galguli neshamas, that the grasses and growing vegetation and produce and fruits are all gilgulei neshamas, reincarnated souls present in them. So that's getting us another idea of what's behind this depiction in the Rebbe's works of the Asalim and their chashivas and their sort of like all desiring to become incorporated into the tefillah and to become kol v'nichlo b'shorshim, because he's identifying them with neshamas, goguin neshamas, sabin tzvachim, siach hasadim netzutze neshamas al yanan. There's another one in another place, Likutay, in Or Chaim, where he says that they're all sparks of souls, these growing things, herbs of the field, grasses, from above. Okay, so Ayin Sham, you see over there from Reb Nosson. But that's another thing to understand from this. Third thing is really b'derech efsher, but the idea of a sovim seems to me are that they're like their multiplicity, their manyness is beyond count, and this idea of the angel striking them from above and saying, grow. Striking is the idea of gevura, and gevura comes from the tzimtzum. And their manyness is also due to profound levels upon levels of tzimtzum, constrictions of light, to account for their separateness and their manyness. So, and the other thing is that through the tefillah and through the hisbodedus of the tzaddik or of anyone who does so, especially in the fields, that's elevating and being mamtik all those tzimtzumim which are inherent in the asavim, the grasses, and sublimating them, raising them above to become reincorporated into the Achtus HaKol, which is accomplished through the tefillah, this return to Achtus, and to the hisbodedus, which is the hasag of the Bechuv Mitzias, which is the Achtus. So that's another thing about the about the grasses. Here's another one in Sequels around Kuf Samach Gimel, another one about his spiders. Siperli Ish Echad Nizlat Apoya. Person from Zlatapoya told this to Reb Nosson. Kashabiyose Yoshev Rabbeinu Zal, Zlatapoya, at the time when the Rebbe was living in this town of Zlatapoya. Pam Achas Bakayetz is Pal Rabbeinu Zal Baboker, Hashkem. So one morning the Rebbe davened, as was his custom, at daybreak. First davening. V'achakach Sholach es el Beno. Albito hayal de Sora Tichia v'kora oso, and he summoned his daughter Sora. Uvola Rabbeinu Zal, v'amalo Rabbeinu Zal, lomu lo Rabbeinu Zal, lech imi l'tayo. He sent his daughter Sarah to summon him. Right? And he said, let's go out for a walk. And he walked with him outside of the city limits, town limits. And they walked among the grasses. Honor Rabbeinu Zal v'Omar, and the Rebbe declared and said, Ima Yisi Zochel Lishmoya as Kol Hashiras Vatishbachos Shal Asavim. Right? If I was only privileged to hear the song of the sound of the songs and praises of the grasses. Ekol Esav Omer Shira Hashem Yisborach, Bli Peniya Uvali Shem Machshav Zaros. How each blade of grass recites its song to Hashem without any sense of self-importance, without any foreign thoughts to distract it. And they don't have yearning for any sort of reward for doing so. Kama yofa v'noah k'sheshomen hashiro shalahem. How beautiful and wonderful and delightful it would be to hear their song. V'tov ma'od b'neihem la'avod as Hashem b'yira. And it's very good to serve Hashem with awe and fear in their midst. Okay? And he goes on with the story.
Is the aim
Ayin Sham. He talks about his experience with the Rebbe there. But this inyan of the sichas of the sicha bein sodin is what I wanted to reference here. And what else do I have? I'm not sure. I made a.
Is the yira a result of the malach that's hitting them? Is that?
I think the
that
yira.
related to
I think it's just it's the yira is the yira that the tzaddik or that the Jew is feeling within himself, and that the asavim of the neshamas, if you will, are coming to somehow contribute to that experience, to the tefillah and to the yira. And of course the yira, the way the Rebbe speaks about yira, the Zohar says there's yira and there's yira, two types of yira. There's the lower yira, the higher yira. Yira is, haromimus is the higher level. So when the Rebbe is speaking about davening, certainly he's talking about that higher level, that higher yira, which was the experience of awe before Hashem. And one second over here. So there's a southern. Reish Chaf Vav, I think, or Zion. This is a different one. No wonder I couldn't find it. I have my teachers all over my forum of things that I put there, want to look at later, or reference, remember where it is. She loves to tell about when Levi was a little boy, my grandson. He came to the house and he was like 5 years old or something, and he saw all these tissues in my forum. So he started pulling them all out to be helpful.
Right.
He went to Bubby and said, I got rid of all those tissues from Zadie's farm. I helped him clean them up. Right? So she told him what it was about. He said, oh, he was aghast.
You get your 3M flags, color coordinated flag.
That big deal. It's like, okay. I found this note written down from some of the Rebbe's other Hasidim. That it's extra good for the Hisbodedus to be outside of the city in a place of grasses plural. That the grasses awaken the heart. They cause an awakening of the heart, literally. Okay, what's it say down here? And he cross-references with this with some other places where he says some of this. Yeah. And there's another teaching in Moharan, I think, where a reminiscence where the Rebbe speaks about how when he was a boy he would go out to practice Hisbodedus in the fields and hills and wherever in nature, and when he would come back afterwards, he felt like he was in a totally new world, that it was completely like a new creation, like altogether. So this idea also is that through the Hisbodedus, a person can come to experience the Yesh Mi'ayin quality of every moment of creation, of life. So that when he came back from the Hisbodedus, he'd been privy to this higher perception, and it was Ke'ilu, the world was created new in that moment. He was able to experience the newness of the world. So these are all components of the Hisbodedus, and the idea that the grasses all becoming incorporated into the tefillah and into the Hisbodedus, and the grasses also bearing neshamas, souls within them, and life itself within them. All life is divine. Is all contributing to the tefillah and to the Hisbodedus, because to that degree, a greater degree of the manyness of creation is become kol v'nichlal in the actus, and the tzimtzumim which characterize this world, which make everything to seem to be divided and separate from Hashem and from all the other elements. To heal that error, and to realize that it's really a paradox. That yes, everything has its individuality, everything has its chashivas, its dignity, its beauty. But at the same time, everything is really one, and we can come to experience that through the Hisbodedus. And I think that's maybe inform us a little bit of how all the grasses can come to enhance our Hisbodedus and be elevated thereby, and we can do what we're supposed to do, accomplish our task in creation, which is to elevate all of creation, bring everything back to Hashem and to Sagas Elikus Einon Movado.
Shkoyer. I never know when you could. I'm always afraid or hesitant to compare or mix Tyrus, but sometimes you see like all these overlapping concepts. Like for instance, we were doing a little Tyrus Samachay.
I do.
So there, the Rebbe, we have all these concepts.
I learned Samachay for Shuas, by the way.
So the Sadam and the Ilanas there are the Shamas that are trying to get back into the Gan.
Yeah.
And they're also, the Rebbe calls when the Oisis Atfil are also all flowers and creating the bouquet, which becomes an actus and becomes bundles tefillah into one.
Bouquets, yeah.
Bouquets and arrangements of flowers.
So the tefillah is gathering into its miyachid, it's gathering together. Very good, Mati. Just like the many grasses are being gathered together into the Hisbodedus.
I never know how if they're different.
See, on the one hand, he's using it as a metaphor for the words, the letters in the words, and it's through the one who's davening that this yichud and his kalos takes place, and it's happening more than mela. In the case of misboded in the field, the grasses are of their own will seemingly becoming incorporated into the sicha and the tefillah. But there's still a close connection. They're interrelated very closely. Hashem.
So maybe that's where the minig of decorating the shuls and the houses with flowers, bouquets of flowers, shuls.
Right, and grasses.
Shuls time is all.
They used to put grass around. Remember in Breslov Shtiva, they used to put also like I think grass on the floor.
We had a big tree over our Kaddish now. The shuls.
Right. Although I was reading, maybe Tzvi told me, or maybe I read it somewhere, that one of the tzaddikim, the Litvish tzaddikim, didn't do that. But regional minhagim we did. I don't remember if it was the Chazon Ish or it was the Stipler or maybe Reb Chaim Kanievsky. I remember one of them was this was a fremde minig to him where he grew up.
You mean to decorate the shul with?
Yeah, with those things. But we always did it in Breslau and Rabbi Landau shul when I davened in Flatbush had there were years where he had like thousands of dollars worth of beautiful flowers and all over the shul and up the pillars of the Aron Kodesh and so forth.
The Welt does it.
The Welt does it. Klal Yisrael has a certain wisdom.
Like Resident KAJ, the shul in Manhattan, they also do like a beautiful.
Oh, they do that too? Yeah.
Yes.
So that was a Yekashim minig too.
Yeah, it seems
So people did it. Probably most people do it to some extent. So Klal Yisrael does something. There's something to it.
Yeah, for sure.
The Rebbe says all the time, the Rebbe Darshan, and so many minhagei Yisrael, even ones that we never heard of today. Otherwise, they all have a profound meaning. This is part of it. The Klal Yisrael is what the Torah tells us it is. Then those sensitivities and those gefühlen are also consequential.
Shkaya, beautiful.
Okay, my friend, you want to daven Ma'ariv and then lie down?
I don't know if I'll lie down. I'll get a second one. Yeah.